So, hello guys and welcome to Saturday. Hope you had a good week so far, and let's get into Card of the Week. And as you know, this is chosen randomly, and this week card of the week is Slip of Fortune. Now, this card's effect is activate only when your opponent monster declares an attack targeting a monster, negate the attack and remove from play the attack target monster until the next standby phase. Now that is a bit of an opposite to Dimensional Prison, for instance. If Dimensional Prison is activated, your opponent's monster gets removed from play permanently. Slip of Fortune does it the other way around, where your monster instead gets removed from play, but it's only until the next standby phase. Now that means if they attack, for instance, with a Sabersaurus attacks your wind-up rabbit, well actually no, that's a bit of a bad example now I think about it, but let's just keep going with that. Attacks the wind-up rabbit, you can activate Slip of Fortune, then your wind-up rabbit will get banished. And then come back during your standby phase. So it's really good for protecting your monsters, basically, because you can keep them on the field, but your opponent's monsters will stay. Some people, obviously, Dimensional Prison is a probably more well-rounded card because you're getting rid of their monster and your monster stays on the field anyway. But it does also protect in the sense that even if they have another monster, your opponent has two monsters, for instance, that can get over your, I don't know, Effect Veiler Dino Rabbit, sorry. Then you activate Slip of Fortune, it then gets banished. Then your opponent can attack you directly, but it's protecting your monster and you'll get your monster next turn, then you can use your rabbit's effect. So it's pretty good because getting rid of your opponent's monsters is very good, but keeping your monsters alive at the same time is pretty, I'd say, more important. Keeping your monsters alive, I'd say, is more important than getting rid of your opponent's monsters, personally. Just because of effects these days and needing those effects to stay. There's also an important ruling with Slip of Fortune, is if the monster is face down and you activate Slip of Fortune, your monster is removed from play face down and returns to the field face down. So it's quite good also for like Raikou plays. If you don't actually want the Raikou to flip effect destroy or something, you don't want to mill yet, you banish it, then it will come back next turn, and then maybe when they've set a few cards and you want to hit some back row, then you can flip Raikou. So it has that really effect. Of course, the thing with Slip of Fortune is that the opponent has to declare an attack for you to activate it, which is a bit of a downside, but you'd still negate the attack, so they don't get a second attack. But yeah, it's just a good fit. Obviously, you don't want to be using it on XYZs, which is a bit of a downside in today's meta, because XYZ is so XYZ focused. But you can still use it with Synchros and some other cards that I'm going to go over now that can really work with this card. This came for, Slip of Fortune was actually, I believe, made for Fortune Ladies, because it does work with Fortune Ladies, with Fortune Lady Light and stuff. But it can have some other effects that I'm going to go over that aren't Fortune Ladies. So, let's go over the first one, and that is Earthbound Immortal Azlapiscu, as I pronounce it, which is completely wrong. I should probably rewatch the 5Ds to learn its name, because Carly Carmine uses this, I believe. But this is Earthbound Immortal, and it's really good for this, in the sense that, if you read its effect here, when this card is removed from the field, except by its own effect, destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls and inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent for each monster destroyed. So basically, with Slip of Fortune, they might attack with something like large, they might attack with a BLS or something, or you have a Forbidden Lance. Obviously, they're going to be scared from the fact that if they destroy it, their monsters are destroyed, but they might have, there are other ways to go around this that they might have stopped. But using this card, Slip of Fortune, you can then banish your monster and then inflict the 800 points of damage to them anyway. This, when it's on the field, does put a bit of fear into your opponents, but they'll try and get around it with stuff like, for instance, even Soul Drain, I think, negates this when it's in the graveyard, because its effect will activate in the graveyard. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Slip of Fortune, they declare the attack, you banish it, blow up all their monsters. Really nice card. Another card here is DD Destroyer. Not a very nice looking card, but its effect is when this card is on the field is removed from play, you can select one face-up card your opponent controls to destroy it. So again, with Slip of Fortune, they declare attack. It's got a really low attack, so they're probably going to get rid of it because it won't be banished. Then you activate this, it's removed from play, you then get to destroy their monster. So it's really handy in that. It's not the greatest looking card, I will admit, but it can just be a free pop with Slip of Fortune. Again, NECROFACE, a really good card for this as well, because when this card is removed from play, both players remove from play the top 5 cards of your deck. So you could really use this in a really smart NECROFACE mill deck, because they attack your NECROFACE, you then activate your Slip of Fortune, it gets banished, and then both players mill the top 5 cards of their deck. Then it will come back, and then they declare another attack, you activate another Slip of Fortune or something. And you can just use Slip of Fortune really smartly in that way as well. Next is more for actually good for a really competitive deck, which is Elemental Heroes. You summon the Absolute Zero. Now, when Absolute Zero is on the field, a lot of people do get scared of Absolute Zero, because obviously they get a blow up monster. But you can save this from getting destroyed. That's the other point with Elemental Hero Automatic. This card will stop it getting destroyed. For instance, people run over these cards because they just want to get rid of them. So they'll try and summon something big and just keep that monster on the field and then attack and then let it go to the graveyard because they're fine with it. For instance, like some Chaos Dragons and stuff like that, they're fine with Light Pulsar usually going to the grave while using these effects. However, if you use Slip of Fortune, you get to banish it and then you'll get that monster next turn, so you'll get this even back, so you get to use it twice effectively, the effect. And you get to blow up all their monsters. So that's the main point of Slip of Fortune, in the sense that you get to keep the monster. It won't get ran over and then use its effect. It will actually come back. So you get to use the effect basically twice, or then again 4 times in total if you have 3 Slip of Fortunes. So maybe a bit over use of that card, but yeah, you could use it really effectively. And finally here, I've got Beast King Barbaros, and this and Fusilier Dragon, I believe is the card, which have these effects. There's other cards like this, have these effects that when they're summoned, like here, it gets its original attack becomes 1900, which is all good and well, and usual things that you play skill drains and stuff like that. And however, with Slip of Fortune, it will banish Beast King, and then when it comes back, its attack will revert back to its 3000. Which is really handy, and which is why the field spell that Fortune Ladies play, Fortune Ladies and their kind of whole remove and then come back can really work with some of these cards. I look into Fortune Ladies, I've done a video before, I didn't actually use many of these cards, I was going for a more pure style Fortune Lady deck, but you can make some really interesting Fortune Lady decks with these cards. So yeah, it can be really useful because you can make these massive 3000 point monsters appear on the field with one trap tile. It's not even continuous, so they can't get rid of it, it'll keep being 3000. So yeah guys, Slip of Fortune, I think it's a really interesting card that could be used quite usefully in today's meta, because a lot of the time it's wanting, I find today, is keeping your monsters alive on your side of the field is much more important than just destroying your opponent's monsters. I believe that keeping your monsters on the field is much more important, and this actually does that. It keeps them on the field, because it's when you don't want to use a monster's effect that might get sent to the graveyard straight away, you don't have to, because you can activate Slip of Fortune, it will come back. Especially like I said about Raikou and all these face down cards like Morphing Giant stuff, you don't want to use it just yet, you can banish it and then it will come back next turn, and then you might want to use it later. With Earthbounds and Elemental Heroes and cards like that get popped when get destroyed, and then you get to hit your opponent's monsters, these can keep them around a bit longer, because obviously you have Slip of Fortune, then they'll come back. So you can use them really effectively in that sense. They won't just, your opponent won't run over them, get their monsters destroyed, and then go from all their plays. Instead, you activate this, all their monsters will die as the same as last time, but you'll also get the monster back as well. So they have to think again that they have to try and get around this really annoying card. So Slip of Fortune, I think, can be really, really useful. And obviously it's a normal trap, so it's not a counter trap or anything, so it's not really fast, so there are quite a few things that can get around it. But I think playing this with Dimensional Prisons, can really work well, because removing things from play, even if they're only a monster and you get them back, can be really handy, because nothing can really ever touch that remove from play part. A few things like Levier can get around it, because you activate this, then they nick your monster with Levier. So you got to be careful when using it, but it can be really useful. And I really think you should try this card out, guys, because I think it's quite... when I luckily randomly picked this, I was like, oh, this actually is a good card to talk about. So yeah, what do you guys think about Slip of Fortune? Do you think it could see a lot more play in today's games? even any of the more meta decks, it could be really useful. I've gone over elemental heroes, but if it could be useful in Dino Rabbits, Macro Rabbits, any of those kind of decks. So yeah, just like talk about it. It's really good against effect failures as well. Just to set this and stuff. Yeah, what do you think about it, guys? Comment below, and just any combos, memories, and stuff about this with Slip of Fortune. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this, guys, and see you around. Cheers.